Welcome to Blockchain Security Series, the podcast where the future of Web3 security unfolds. Presented by pablito.eth.
Hello and welcome. I am Pablo Sabbatella, your guide through the intricate and evolving world of blockchain security. Each episode we dive deep into the heart of Web3, bringing you face-to-face with the pioneers and key players shaping the blockchain security ecosystem. Presented by Blockfence. Hello everyone and welcome to the 7th episode of Blockchain Security Series. Today we have a very special guest, Mudit Gupta, Chief Information Security Office at Polygon. Hi Mudit, how are you? How's everything?
Hey Pablo, I'm good. Thanks for having me here. Expecting a fun conversation.
Excellent. Where are you now? Are you in Dubai? You went to Token 2049?
Yeah, I'm here. Lots of people just here for Token 2049, ETH Dubai, and bunch of events happening. So it has been a fun week.
Very nice. So to start, I would like to know a bit about how you got into crypto and how you got into security. You started first with security and then crypto, first crypto and then security. Was all this together? How's your story?
Yeah, for sure. So I got into security first. I'll start with there. And it's a funny story kind of. So I had a Web2 startup. I was still in school, so pretty young, and obviously I didn't care about security back then, was just shipping. And it was doing fairly well. But as I didn't care about security at all, it ended up being hacked, being exploited, and the hackers started using my domain for phishing and so on, and it just all happened overnight. And by the time I woke up, I had emails from FBI and Citibank at detailing what's going on. And they were helpful in the sense they realized it's not me who is doing these things, but my domain has been hijacked. But at the same time, it was still scary experience for a school kid. So that's what got me excited into security. And I was like, how can these guys do it? And I want to prevent this next time. So that's how I started learning cybersecurity and everything. So I started first with cybersecurity, and then a couple of years later, in 2014, I got into blockchains through Monero. So I was doing some freelance work, security freelance work, and one of the clients I was working with, they had a ransomware attack where they paid the ransom in Monero. So they paid the ransom, and the guy unlocked their data or whatever, so everything was fine. But after the fact, they just hired me to see if I can trace the origin of the hack, or why it happened, and if I can trace the hacker. And that's when I started looking into Monero and realized, oh shit, it actually works. It is quite anonymous and so on. So that got my attention, and that's where I learned about blockchains. And from there, obviously I looked into Bitcoin first, and then Ethereum, and then a bunch of others. But got into blockchains in 2014. On blockchains themselves, I worked on research mainly initially. I was working on proof of stake till 2016-17, the early versions of it, mainly trying to solve the migration problem, how do you move a proof of work network into proof of stake, and so on. But in more recent times, in 2019-20, started getting back into security through so basically I ended up combining my blockchain experience and security experience to do blockchain security, which was really niche, and not many people were really doing it at least 3-4 years ago.
Very nice. In fact, something that you said resonates to me, because I always say that I was very young. I was very lucky, because when I was very young, when I was 15 years old, I had a hacking and security website. And that website got hacked, right? By someone who today is one of my best friends. But being hacked or having a security incident very young was very lucky for me, because from that moment on, you start seeing security in a different way, right?
Yeah.
I always say that it's like when people don't eat healthy and then they have a heart attack, and from that moment they start eating healthy.
Yeah.
Well, something like this happened to me and happened to you. So that's very nice. Then you worked at many different blockchain projects. You were at Polymath, you were at Sushi, you were at also at Delta Blockchain Fund, and now you're at Polygon. What are some of the things you learned in each one of these projects?
Yeah, for sure. With Polymath, I started as a smart contract developer, leading the smart contracts efforts there. And Polymath, back in 2018, was by far the most complex slash advanced smart contract smart contract software or project. It still is one of the most complex. And just to give you an example of like how advanced slash complex it was, we at Polymath in 2018, I hit a bug in Solidity. Basically, in the Sol.js, there's a buffer limit into how much code actually you can put in for it to compile. Beyond that, it just fails. Like it can't store more code for compilation. And for 4 years, Polymath was the only project to ever hit it, and that's why Solidity never really fixed it. And in 2022, if I remember correctly, Uniswap V3 finally hit the bug, and that's when it just became a bigger priority to fix. But that just gives people an idea like how complex Polymath was and how long it took for another project to reach that level. But what that taught me is like a lot about smart contracts. Like I had to learn tricks to do everything. I had to learn the best paradigms for software development for smart contracts specifically because they're very different from traditional software development. So that just got me super deep into smart contracts. That was fun. And eventually, while still being at Polymath, I started working on Substrate, which is Polkadot's chain development kit or SDK basically. So I was one of the first users of Polkadot Substrate, and I helped develop a bunch of things there, and still have lots of tooling there, software tooling and security tooling and so on. But just that was like I got a lot of experience working on chain level stuff as well with that. That's when I found my first chain level bug. It's a funny story. I found a critical in Polkadot.
Nice.
Yeah, that was super fun. And I was not even trying to find a bug. I was just developing my own thing using their SDK, and I was like, this doesn't make sense. It shouldn't happen. And yeah, it was a critical. They paid me a whole $250 for it. I wasn't in for the money, but it was just hilarious. So I ended up I told them donate this to one of the orgs I recommended, and I think they did. But that was the state of security, blockchain security back in 2018-19. There was no Immunify, there was no millions of dollars of bounties or anything. You find something, you get paid maybe couple $100 or something like that. But once DeFi came in and actual assets were at risk, things changed. Now you see, I think the highest bug bounty is from Layer 0, $15 million. Or someone might have beaten it already, but you see $1 million bug bounties are a common thing now. So that's super nice to see. I think that's a good thing for the industry.
Now that you said that and how much they pay you for a bounty for a bug in the protocol level, right? Back in 2018, what do you think are the things that didn't change so much in security from that moment to now, and what things changed a lot? What do you think are the differences that you see and the similarities, generally speaking, about the security ecosystem in blockchain?
Yeah, for sure. So the unfortunate similarity even right now is that most projects do not really understand that smart contract audits are not enough for security. Most projects you see just get a smart contract audit done and call it a day. But for a real product, that's just not sufficient. Like even the best projects can get hacked from other ways. For example, Curve's domain was hijacked because they were using a shitty DNS provider. And like, sure, your smart contracts are fine, the protocol is fine, but the end user is wrecked. Like they're trading bad tokens and whatnot. The one of the biggest hacks in the space, so Ronin bridge, had nothing to do with smart contract, just your secret compromise. So and that's another traditional security vector, and we continue seeing these that projects now get smart contract audits done, but ignore everything else. On side of things that have changed is for sure smart contract audits. Now most projects that are launching are getting smart contract audits. Like even scams that are launching are getting at least a certic audit done. So something is better than nothing. That's great to see. And the other thing is I'm seeing more people being interested into security in general. Like there's a much bigger community right now. Back in 2018, there were maybe 20 people thinking about it at all. Now there are like EthCC security group has each security group, has I think 3,000 members or something like that. So it's definitely growing, and that's great. There are definitely more bad actors as well, but at least it's getting some attention. So that's great to see.
Now that you talked about that, we've been seeing a very big trend of Web3 companies and projects being hacked using Web2 hacking techniques, right? And I agree with you that most projects think that doing a smart contract audit is enough, but then their domains are hijacked, their Twitter accounts are hijacked, Discord, Slack, private keys, code repositories. So having said that, in Web2 or in traditional, let's say, security, the industry has some standards, right? And most companies follow them. Where do you think that we are related to having blockchain security standards for projects using them? And what should change, right? In order to start solving these issues that do not seem to have been solved up to now.
Yeah, for sure. So the real problem is that people still don't realize that smart contracts audits are not enough. Even if you look at the biggest protocols, they just don't do more. For example, Arbitrum, probably the biggest L2 right now, has nobody leading security there. There's just no one doing it. They have a security council of 12 people to make sure their smart contracts and everything are fine, but nobody is doing anything else. So they
don't have a chief security officer at Arbitrum, for example? Okay.
Not as far as I know. So they're just like, they want to do it. They care about security at all. Care about security for sure. And they're super nice guys. They're not tackling it the right way, at least in my opinion. Like even other, like these are chains, and if you look at big DeFi protocols, same story. Like you look at Lido, for example, probably the highest TVL right now. They had nobody till last year looking at security. They were hiring a CISO. I'm not sure if they closed the role or not. But I haven't seen anyone working there. So it's just like that's it. Like all of them will get audits done from the best companies, and they will throw money at it. They don't care about money. It's not a money problem. It's just a mindset issue, sort of. Another good example to look at it would be as far as you were talking about certifications and standards. So in Web 2, it's very common for companies to get ISO 27001 certification or SOC 2 compliance if they're handling PII or important data. And in this space, apart from exchanges, I've not seen a single company, single DeFi company actually have it. Polygon just got ISO 27001 certified, Polygon Labs, stage 2. So I'm super proud of that. And I think like in general, the industry is moving the right direction. But at the same time, I can see like none of my peer companies are even trying for it. It's just not their priority right now. And we keep finding issues even in our competitors. Like at Polygon, we report everything to our competitors as well, because we believe it's in our best interest to have security of this whole space move forward as being like strong, because the reality is, like, if Arbitrum gets hacked tomorrow, it's people are not gonna say let's move to Polygon, it's safe. People are gonna say blockchain is bad, let's stop using blockchain. So at Polygon Labs, we strongly believe in collaboration, and we are trying to move security forward. So if we find issues, like we sometimes find very very basic issues in competition, and we report them, we get them fixed. But the fact that we are still finding them shows that the maturity is still lacking. So I'm really pushing forward, especially in the last couple of years, that I'm pushing all these big protocols to actually hire some security lead in house who knows what to do, because the reality is these teams care about security and they want people to be safe. They just don't know what they actually need to do for it to happen.
Yeah, I totally agree. So going back to this thing about Web3 projects getting hacked with Web2 hacking techniques, what have you been seeing lately? I mean, have you been seeing the same kind of attacks, or have you seen some kind of new trend or something interesting in special?
Yeah, so I'm seeing two types of attacks mainly. One is DNS/domain compromise. So if you are hosting on a cheap provider/shitty provider, uh, I don't need to name, but there are
Yep.
many. It's likely your account will get compromised, like, because all it takes is to compromise one support engineer at those companies, and the support engineers can transfer the domain to someone else or change DNS and so on. So lots of Web3 projects get compromised via that. Their website gets compromised and then the users get phished. The other way I'm seeing is lots of private key compromises. So these can be private key compromises, like your own personal keys, and you get phished and so on. But also at org level, at company level. For example, the Ronin hack. Ronin bridge was basically
Yeah.
a 5x9 multisig, and they had 5 of their 9 keys compromised by just server compromise. So those kind of incidents are also common, where the private keys are just compromised, or not just private keys, any secrets are just compromised, and that leads to issues. So with that, like, really, there are two things we need to do. One is, first of all, properly secure your secrets. It's not nothing new. It's nothing hard. Like, secrets have existed in Web2 world forever, like API keys and so on. So it's nothing new. It being a private key versus not doesn't matter. You just have to secure any secret. The other thing is, since we are in crypto and DeFi, try to architecture your software such that it's not dependent on 2, 3 keys, especially not hot keys. And luckily now most bridges and so on have moved away from that hot key architecture, except I think the Avalanche bridge. Avalanche bridge is still just an EOA. If you look at it, you're basically sending money to an EOA, and they say, oh, if you send money here, we promise we'll send it back to you. Um, on the backend, it works through Intel SGX. They have, I think, a 2x4 multisig running in an Intel SGX and so on. But the thing is, we can't verify that. They are not sharing, the code is proprietary, so they're not sharing validity proofs or anything. But I believe them. It's probably how they are running, but at the same time, it's still a risk. Like, if it gets compromised, it gets compromised. So ideally, we don't follow that architecture. But yeah, it's not hard avoiding these Web2 hacks in Web3 world. It just needs some attention.
Yeah, I totally agree. You just talked about the Ronin hack, right? Do you want to do a brief summary of what happened there and how was it that an attacker was able to get 5 out of 9 keys?
Yeah.
And what should have been done differently so that that kind of thing doesn't happen? More when we are talking about breach security, right?
Yeah. Okay. So with Ronin, the way the bridge worked was it was basically a 5x9 multisig. If 5 addresses said something, the bridge will do it. Like if 5 addresses said send $100 to Bob, the bridge will send it. First of all, like this is not ideal setup. You should have more signers on a bridge. For example, even Polygon PoS has over 100 validators. So the more validators you have and the bigger set you have, it's harder to compromise. But let's come back to this 5x9 one. So one issue is this. Second biggest issue was that out of these 5x9 or out of these 9 signers, 4 of them were a single entity. 4 of them was Ronin itself, Axie itself. So uh, it was then basically like one entity gets compromised plus one key and you have the bridge. So it became like a 2x5 multisig. It got reduced to. And these keys were hot wallets. They were not in ledgers or any cold wallet like a normal multisig would have. These were right on the server, signing transactions all the time. So if the server got compromised, server running on AWS, GCP, wherever, doesn't matter. If someone got into your server, they would know the key. So the second biggest problem is like having one entity run 4 keys in your multisig. Like then it's not a 5x9 multisig. It gets reduced to 2x9. So that was one issue. And obviously the hackers that like probably DPRK, they got into Ronin's servers. So they compromised their DevOps engineer. So basically like they sent a message to their DevOps engineer saying, hey, we have a new job opportunity for you. We're gonna pay you double. Here's some details about it and so on. And obviously like the DevOps engineer is just a DevOps engineer. He sees double salary. He's happy. He opens the job offer and so on. And it was a malicious document that compromised his system. And with his system compromised, they got into the servers and got access to 4 keys. Now here another 2 more failures happened. One is the DevOps engineer didn't have the right security training to be clicking on these malicious files and so on. And 2, a DevOps engineer having access to these keys, which are securing $600 million. Like, doesn't matter how expert he is. Like, I personally would never take control of keys managing $600 million. So that was another architecture failure there. So that shouldn't have happened, but it happened. So now DPRK was in these servers. They had access to 4 keys directly. They only needed 1 key. And funnily enough, the way this was like DPRK found a way to access 5th server through one of these existing servers they compromised. So another entity basically had their SSH key lying on these servers that DPRK already compromised. So they found the SSH key here and they logged into another entity and got their key as well. So another issue here, like having your SSH key lying around at random places. Please don't do that. So this was another issue that caused 5th key to be compromised. And once DPRK had 5th key, voila, they drained everything. After they drained everything, it actually took a whole week for these guys to realize funds are gone because there was no monitoring or anything. Someone messaged them on Discord, hey, where are the funds? And that's when they realized, oh shit, something happened. So this was another failure. There was literally no monitoring. If they had monitoring of like server logins, for example, they would have known, okay, someone entered our servers without our like knowledge, something's going on. Maybe they could have stopped it then. Maybe they could have prevented the 5th key from getting compromised or whatever, but they just didn't have that. So at the end of the day, the Ronin hack was basically like a series of things that went wrong, and everything that could have gone wrong went wrong for them. So they also got a bit unlucky, but like it was just a series of events of 5-6 things going wrong one by one that led to it.
Yeah, the fact that they realized about the hack like 1 week ago, that's like unbelievable. And I don't know if they realized or someone realized about that and posted something, right?
Yeah,
but
someone
that
else
says.
warned them. Yeah.
And do you think that this is like a special case and that they were unlucky, or that what do you think about operational security standards? I mean, OpSec for both developers and people that are, for example, doing security audits at companies. They audit Solidity code, right?
Yeah.
And also devs. Do you think that they have a good OpSec, that they know about OpSec? Or perhaps there are people that started into blockchain, then started auditing smart contracts, but do not come from traditional security, so they don't know so much or they don't care so much about operational security. And for example, they don't know what a zero-day exploit is and what's the risk of that, right? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a mixed bag. I think it won't be fair to generalize everyone in one category because
No,
I've
no.
seen people who are very nice, who have very nice OPSEC, and I've also seen people who have very bad OPSECs, especially in the security community. But that being said, on the project side, the things are not as good. Most of the projects just don't have good OPSEC. And like even after Ronin Bridge got hacked, things didn't improve. Horizon got hacked, or Harmony basically got hacked with the same thing a month later or something like that. So then, like, even after seeing a competition get hacked this way, they didn't realize, they didn't fix anything. After that, everyone saw the multi-chain fiasco, which was hilarious, where the Chinese government just abducted the founder and then the founder's sister, and yeah, people just lost funds there. So OPSEC is definitely lacking in the space for projects. In the security community, luckily, yeah, things are looking much better. People understand and care about OPSEC.
Excellent, excellent. Now I'm gonna change a bit the subject. Imagine someone is listening to this podcast now. He's into blockchain security, but is not a programmer, but really likes operational security and blockchain security in general. Where do you think, or how should be the path for that person to start into blockchain security? Do you think that it's very important to first learn how to code? Do you think it's more important to start reading about how the protocol works, or going directly to learn Solidity on audit contracts? What would be the path for you recommend for someone to become an auditor? Someone that does not code.
So, I mean, there are many different paths anyone can take and specialization, but in my mind, a good security researcher, doesn't matter blockchain or not, has two basic skills. Obviously, like apart from first of all, like they need to know at least basic coding. So they don't need to be an expert in Solidity or whatever. They just need to know basic scripting, and like they can write basic Python scripts or JavaScript scripts, because you would be automating lots of things. If you're not scripting while doing security work, you're missing out. So that's obviously a basic. Like if you don't know programming at all, learn basics of Python or JavaScript. But beyond that, you need to develop two skills. One is the security mindset, and for me, this is the most important one. Like just like looking at something and your mind automatically trying to think, how can we break this? That's the best part. Like for this to work, you don't need to see the code. You just hear an idea and your brain automatically thinks, oh, this idea might be exploited this way, that way, this way. And it's not just code or program specific. It also works in real life. Like someone is doing a promotion in real life, your brain thinks, oh, I can exploit this promotion this way. You don't need to do it, but as long as your brain can think about those scenarios and ideas, that's perfect. It's the hardest thing to develop as well, because some of it comes naturally of you being cynical and so on, but some of it you can train. The best thing for these are, I think, CTFs, capture the flag events. You can do blockchain themed CTFs. You can do other typical CTFs in Web2 world. But CTFs basically train your brain to look at a seemingly normal thing, but trying to find exploits there. So it trains your brain to think out of the box, think how something can be exploited and so on. So having this mindset is very important. Doesn't matter you're doing blockchain security or pen testing in Web2 apps or whatever, just having this mindset, super important. The second skill you need to have is deep technical knowledge of what you are securing. So if you are a smart contract auditor, you should know how smart contracts work, how EVM works, and how Solidity works if you're auditing Solidity smart contracts. So for that, you would need to learn Solidity and so on. But you don't need to be a smart contract auditor to be a blockchain security consultant or an expert. You can look at the chain level stuff as well. For example, you can look at Geth, you can learn Go, you can learn distributed computing, and you can be just a chain level security expert. You can be a cryptography expert. You can just learn about cryptography and how encryption schemes work, how hashes work, how they can have vulnerabilities and so on. And you can just work on the cryptography side. You would still be a blockchain security researcher. You would still need that skill set of knowing how to break things, but not necessarily working on Solidity. So you just basically this mindset you definitely need to develop. And then a skill that you need to master, you can pick anyone. Like you can pick whatever interests you. You can try all of them a little bit, and wherever you think your brain is heading to, like whatever you like, you can go towards that.
Very nice, very nice recommendations. And now that we talked about that, what do you think about the state of tools for developers and for security auditors? Do you think we have enough tooling? Do you think that the failures sometimes regarding not secure code is regarding coders training, or could it be that that is solved through new tooling? And also regarding tooling, what do you think about the future of creating and auditing code, writing and auditing code, right? Regarding automation, AI, what do you think about that?
Yeah, for sure. So right now, we simply do not have sufficient tooling. We have lots of people building tooling for security and developers, but the reality is like the standard is just not there. It's not quality tooling right now. And the reason behind that is that the market is very small for it. If you look at Web2 world, even for them, it took years and years to build reliable tooling. There's, I'm forgetting the name, but Web2 code like repo scanning company. I'm just forgetting the name right now, but they like raise funds and built for like 10 years almost before having their first real client, basically. So because the market earlier on when they started just wasn't big enough, and now it is, and now they're doing fairly well. In Web2 world, there is so much tooling. Like you can use Burp Suite, OWASP, and like 90% of pen testing is basically automated. Remaining 10% you really have to look into it. In Web3 world, we have static analyzers, we have formal verifiers, we have some code scanning things with AI and everything, but it's just not there. And the reason is twofold. One is we do not have enough data to train AIs. We have barely any smart contract examples to train AI on what is good, what is bad. And two, we are just young right now. We just don't have enough of a target market for someone to put money into this. So I think in future we'll definitely have much better tooling. People are already working on it. It's just a matter of time, matter of growing the market. So the future you'll see like much more advanced static analyzers, much more AI powered thing where anomaly detection is a thing. Like if you give it a source code of a ERC20 token, it can compare with other tokens and see, hey, this one looks weird. This function is not there in other stuff. Are you sure it should be here? And things like that. So all of those things will take some time, but in the future we'll have it. AI is already helping here a lot. Right now, AI is not really advanced enough to do full-blown security reviews, but where I'm seeing best usage of AI is like doing the bare minimums. Like even while developing, you can use AI to write test cases for you. The test cases won't be perfect, but it will give you a base point to start from. Then you can improve on them. You can use AI to write like rules for formal verifiers, invariants to verify for formal verification. Like you give it your contract code base and documentation to it, and AI can suggest, hey, this invariant should always hold, verify this holds, and so on. It can give you a list, and then you can write formal rules for it, and you can verify them using Satora, or you can do fuzzing and so on. And there are also these AI auditing tools right now. They're not as good, but they are getting there. Like they just catch. They're basically like overhyped static analyzers at this point, but eventually with enough data set, they can maybe replace static.
Yeah, I mean, formal verification gives a higher level of security for protocols that have done those kind of verifications, let's say, right? Do you think, but today it's something that it's very complex, takes a lot of time, and it's very expensive. Do you think that we are close, or what do you think about formal verifications being something that could be done by nearly any small protocol? Do you think that that's something achievable in the short, mid, or long term?
Yeah, so formal verification is really the only security method that gives you a guarantee of security. If you get security audits, it's still not no guarantee. If you get fuzz testing, it's no guarantee, but like formal verification guarantees, okay, this is secure. The gotcha there is that it's 100% dependent on the quality of rules or invariants you write. If you forget to test an invariant, there might be a bug there. So it's not foolproof, but it's definitely there and it's solid. Lots of big projects are already utilizing it. There is a learning curve to it right now, so it's not as common because it takes time to actually do it. But with AI coming in, that's reducing. The learning curve is going down. So I think in maybe 2 to 3 years time, we'll have like AI making it easier to onboard, and formal verification tools becoming more powerful and easier to use. They will collide at a point where it would become like natural for everyone to just do it. It's not going to be today, it's not going to be next year, but probably by the next cycle, all of the major protocols are going to be using it. Not everyone, because if your aim is to eventually rug, like there's no point to it. But anyone who is going to be dealing with, let's say, $1 billion, or is expecting to deal with $1 billion, all of these big protocols, they would definitely find it worth it going for it.
Very nice. Now let's change a bit the subject. Could you do a comparison between like what's Polygon zk-EVM, what are their differences, and what it means from a security perspective, each one of them?
Yeah, for sure. So Polygon has multiple networks. One is Polygon PoS, Polygon Proof of Stake. It's commonly people just call it Polygon, but it's a Polygon Proof of Stake, PoS, and then Polygon zk-EVM. So between these two, Polygon zk-EVM is a true L2. It's a ZK-based rollup that rolls up to Ethereum, and it borrows all of the security guarantees from Ethereum. Which also implies on the downside that it's a bit expensive to do transactions on, because everything is eventually rolled up to Ethereum. So it costs gas, it costs money. It's still definitely an order of magnitude cheaper than Ethereum, but it's not pennies. On the other side, Polygon PoS is a hybrid L2 sidechain, where basically we have check marks, checkpoints, and milestones which guarantee a state that, okay, if this is checkpointed on Ethereum, it's guaranteed to happen on PoS. So it borrows security somewhat, but not 100%. So it's not as secure, technically speaking, as to zk-EVM, but for all practical reasons, it's arguably more secure than any rollup. It's definitely more secure than rollups which don't have fraud proofs live. So, which is basically all optimistic rollups. But that aside, the advantages PoS has is that it's super cheap. it costs maybe a cent to do a transaction or cheaper. So it's great for retail users. It's great for adoption. It's super easy to use. It's compatible with Ethereum completely, and it's just all of the DeFi ecosystem is there. All the tooling is there. Polygon PoS has the most users right now, most integrations in crypto applications right now. So it's just where everyone is. That's the advantage of it. It's just good UX. Not the best security, but good UX with good enough security. That being said, we have plans of migrating POS into a zk-Valida rollup, which would make it a true L2 and would definitely improve its security guarantees, while still keeping the fees low. So that's going to happen end of this year or next year. We are working on it, but that's the aim. But that's the difference right now. One is practically good enough security with cheap transactions, and the other is as good of security guarantees as you can imagine. So people can pick and choose whichever they prefer for their application.
So you said that the Polygon zk-EVM, you consider it more secure than most of optimistic rollups, right?
Yep.
Why would be that? What
So-
do you... Yeah.
Yeah, just theoretically speaking, ZK rollups are arguably more secure because the security there is guaranteed by zero knowledge proofs. It's guaranteed by mathematics. It's a ZK rollup cannot have bad state verified at all. There is no way. If there is no bug, obviously, if there is bug, obviously anything can happen. But if there is no bug, anything happening is 100% verified and 100% true, so 100% secure. On the other side, in an optimistic rollup, the way they work is sequencer can basically submit almost any state. It can be true, it can be false, but others can verify if it's true or false and then claim that, hey, it's false, stop things, and so on, via fraud proofs or fault proofs or whatever people want to call them. So it's a practically secure enough system where it's assumed that someone is checking everything, and a sequencer will not be able to get away by submitting false state without someone catching it. But it's just like it comes to that problem. Like everyone might be thinking, oh, someone else is checking it, but maybe no one is checking it in reality. There's no guarantee of it. So it just theoretically it's insecure. And the other thing is, right now, practically speaking, none of the rollups really have fault proofs. So Optimism has no fraud proofs. So this second part, which I was saying, like people can catch sequences submitting false state, you just can't. Like there's no fraud proof mechanism. They will eventually have it, but as of right now, it's very centralized. Arbitrum has fraud proofs, but they are behind a whitelist. Like only I think 12 entities can verify and submit fraud proofs, which is better than nothing. It's definitely a good step, and it's super nice, but it's still not public. So you're dependent on those 12 entities doing their job. You can't do it yourself and say, okay, since I'm doing it, I have a guarantee that it's safe. You have to assume, okay, one of these 12 is at least doing it. So it's optimistic rollups. One, theoretically just not as secure, and two, practically right now definitely not there.
Very, very good explanation. Now, going back to Polygon, why does Polygon PoS have a multisig? How does it work for people that don't know about it? What are the security measures? What can it do? What it cannot do? Why does it exist?
Yeah, for sure. So Polygon PoS has a 5x9 multisig, which can upgrade its staking contracts and bridge contracts. And that is mainly due to security reasons. So we can patch things if we learn about bugs. And anyone who says they don't need upgradability just doesn't understand software development, in my opinion, because of two reasons. One is you can never guarantee that your code is bug free. If anyone is saying I can write bug free code, they are just full of bullshit. So one, like there can always be bug and you might need to upgrade to fix those bugs. Has happened with most chains. Even at Polygon, we had to upgrade our smart contracts twice to fix bugs. So it's definitely is handy. And two, EVM is not fixed, it's upgradable. So it makes no sense to build a non-upgradable thing on a mutable system. Like, what if your smart contracts are safe and 100% working right now, but tomorrow they just stop working? Like, it has happened in the past. For example, with Gnosis safes, that's probably the biggest example. Like, they used to emit an event when they got Ether transferred to them, which was fine because 2100 gas, which was by default sent as a stipend, was enough to emit an event. But then gas prices were changed, and now people realize that you can't depend on gas prices. But back then in 2017, people were really not thinking that gas prices will change or you shouldn't depend on them. So back then, Gnosis like hard coded this thing, and basically after, I don't know which hard fork it was, but whenever they raise gas prices for events, Gnosis saves basically started reverting when you were sending Ether to them through a smart contract, which basically broke lots of applications in DeFi and everything. And people just had to migrate to a different save because you couldn't upgrade them. And those are sort of the scenarios which you don't want to be as a smart contract dev. Like, if the underlying EVM you're building on, the underlying chain you're building on can upgrade, you need to be able to adapt to it if you're building for the long term. So upgradability is definitely needed. You can argue what's the best way to do it. Should it be via token voting? Should it be via multisig? Should it be something else? That's definitely up for debate. And in fact, Polygon is moving to a different like security council model with a zk-EVM and our like upcoming protocol council. But as of right now, we have a multisig to manage upgradability in case of these security issues.
Very nice. And now that you talked about the multisig and the security councils, for example, do you want to give a brief summary of what happened with you being proposed for the Arbitrum Security Council,
Yeah.
and why you were rejected, and what do you think about that? I mean, given the rules that they had, it's, let's say, okay to do it, but you had like a different opinion.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, their rules state that there should be no conflict of interest on participants there. And I guess that's where we, like me and Arbitrum, disagreed. For me, as I mentioned earlier, for me, like, I have no conflict of interest in Arbitrum succeeding because I see Arbitrum security important for this space. Because as I said, like, if Arbitrum goes down, Polygon's usage is gonna go down. Like, people are not gonna say, hey, Arbitrum is insecure, let's move to POS. People are gonna say blockchain is bad, let's move away. So I have no conflict of interest. I have all the interest in moving Arbitrum's security forward. But obviously they didn't have that mindset, and that's partly because, as I said, like, I don't think there's anyone leading security there. It's just people who are not deep into security, just them trying to do their best. um, so they like disqualified me from the application. But to give more context, like, Arbitrum opened up their security council for like voting sort of, so people could apply, and people then our token holders can vote on who should be on security council. It's a nice process, and I was like, oh, it's good. I'm happy to contribute to Arbitrum. We contribute unofficially anyway. So I applied for it, and I ended up getting, like, was sort of unexpected, but I had the most votes by number of people voting, and I think more than twice compared to the second person. So thanks to everyone who voted for me. But apparently, like, people did like me as a candidate. And Arbitrum then decided, oh, that's not good, having a competitor, someone affiliated with competition, being on their security board. So it was they used the conflict of interest clause to disqualify me, but whatever the thinking was, they disqualified. I can understand like why they did it. I don't agree like that it should be the case, but it happened, I could have gone and fought them. Like I could have gone to, so it's open governance. So I could have pushed it with governance and said, hey, this is not a conflict of interest. Let's have a vote on it, token holder vote on it, and things like that. So Arbitrum does allow it, and it's open. But I just didn't feel like it was worth it. Like I don't want to be on a security board of Arbitrum if Off-Chain Labs is not happy with it. That's how the story went. It's a funny incident. For me personally, I would be happy for someone from Arbitrum to be on Polygon Security Council. I don't think there's a conflict of interest here, but like they think otherwise.
Yeah, I also applied for the Security Council, for the Arbitrum Security Council, but I voted for you.
Thank you, thank you.
So I am one of those voters. So now going back to one technical thing that I saw that you were talking in Twitter some days ago. Events. What are events for people who don't know? Why should they be dropped, or why shouldn't they be dropped?
Yeah, for sure. So events are basically a way for smart contracts to signal that something happened to the outside world. So all of the Geth nodes and like all of these Ethereum clients index all of the events that you mark as indexable, and then you can easily query things that did this happen or did this not happen, and so on. So they are a very neat feature, and they were super handy. They're still super handy, and they were definitely needed when they were launched to basically signal something happening on chain, because you can't just read the code to trace what's happening. They were needed. They played their role well. But now I think we are at a stage where we want to phase them out. Not like immediately. It's not like you tap and it's gone, but slowly. I've been pushing for it over 2 years now, over almost 3 years now. And the whole idea behind that is that now we are getting to a point that we don't need events to see what's happening in a transaction. You have tools like Tenderly, which can trace the whole transaction, each TX, and there are many tools like this. You can have the whole trace and figure out what exactly happened. So theoretically, you can build a breakpoint system. Like if anyone has done debugging in traditional software, you will know you can add breakpoints in your execution, and then the execution will halt at that breakpoint, and then you can see the whole state of system and everything. So with events as well, you can arguably do that, like you annotate breakpoints or add fake events, basically whatever in your source code, but they don't compile. They're just like code comments. And another tool basically reads that, and it gets data, all of the transaction traces from Tenderly or Geth or wherever, and then shows you all of the data for the event as if the event happened. So even though there was no on-chain event, you can still replicate it off-chain. And it's not the easiest thing to build, but with the current tooling we have right now, it's not super complex either. It can fairly easily be built. The problem there is that if someone builds it in a proprietary way, then it's not good for the ecosystem, because then like everyone else will have to use a proprietary thing to see what's happening in a smart contract, or they will have to build their own tooling, which is not great. So I'm a big proponent for removing events or stopping using events as much as possible, but in an open way. I want to see a public standard being proposed, which the RPC providers and all of these different vendors can agree to, and they will serve events based on that open standard. So in that case, I think it would be super nice, because if you don't do on-chain events, you would save gas. You would also save lots of computation difficulty and storage space on the client side. So that would definitely be nice, but it needs to happen in a slow and open way, not just one proprietary company coming and saying stop using events and just stop and use our API. It shouldn't be locked in like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, seeing one of your talks, you talked about multi-chain and what do you think about the future. So could you explain what the difference between multi-chain and cross-chain, because it's something that usually gets mixed up, and what do you think about the future? Do you think that the future is multi-chain or not, and how this relates to security, right?
Yeah, for sure. So future is 100% multi-chain. I cannot imagine a future without multiple chains being live, because we are just gonna have different chains specializing in different things and having different strengths and so on. And we already have like dozens of L2s and so on. So multi-chain is definitely gonna happen, and it's a good thing. Cross chain may happen, but I'm not very bullish on it. I just don't think we need cross chain as much. And the difference between multi chain and cross chain is like in a multi chain future, you just have multiple chains and you go to a chain which does your thing best and you do it there. In a cross-chain world, you interact with different chains together. For example, how Aave works today, you deposit some assets and you borrow some assets against that. So in a cross-chain world, you will be able to deposit assets on Ethereum and borrow against those assets on Polygon. So this would be an example of cross chain where like one action of some is happening on one chain and another action of a single transaction is happening on another place. This is, I think, it's too complex right now to build. Eventually, if we are able to solve all of the problems and we can do it in a secure way, it's super nice. But given the practical constraints, I don't think it's going to happen in next 10 years. So I'm not too bullish on true cross-chain behavior, but multi-chain is already here and it's here to stay. I like to compare like chains with analogy of like real world cities. So, like I say, every chain is like a city. Every city in this world, like people can live in many different cities. Every city has its own perks, its own disadvantages. Some cities are very similar, but there is population both places anyway. Maybe just because you were born there, you lived there. Maybe you moved there, it was easy to move. Maybe your partner lives there, whatever. But there are different cities, and it's multi-chain in the sense you can take a flight, go somewhere else. You can cross a bridge going to a different city. So you can move between cities fairly easily. But even right now with all of these techs, it's not as cross chain. Like you don't have the magic door that Doraemon had where you open a door and you're in a different city and so on. So like atomically moving between cities is not possible. It might be in the future, but very unlikely. And similarly, like atomic transactions between cross chain is just not possible right now. Maybe in the future, but not in the nearby future.
Thank you very much for that. Now let's change one more time the subject, right? What do you think? No, what war rooms? What war rooms you participated? Do you remember, and why? I mean, it can be because something funny happened, or because something very interesting, or something you were not hoping for happened. So first of all, for the people who don't know, I mean, mostly will know, but perhaps someone not. What is a war room, and which ones do you remember?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, in general, war room, a term is just like people getting together in a critical situation. But in our scenario, we are talking about security war rooms where a protocol has been hacked or we think is gonna be hacked, and all of the security people get together to either prevent the hack if it has not been hacked, or try to figure out who hacked it, what we can we recover funds and so on, and basically do next steps. For me, I've been in like dozens of war rooms, maybe 100 war rooms, like just so many. Uh, and all of them bring their own flavor and everything. I've seen lots of unique comedy things in war rooms. One story I really like is because I learned a few things in this one. It's now I think been 2 3 years maybe, but someone messaged me that hey, we saw this contract. We think this X protocol might be vulnerable. Look at it, please. That's all they said. And I contacted the team behind X protocol, and they paused the protocol immediately. At this point, like we didn't know if something is actually at risk or whatever. We just had one contract address, which was unverified contract. And someone was saying, okay, this might be an attack on your protocol. And so like the protocol paused the protocol team paused the protocol before anything could have been exploited, which was super nice. And then we started decompiling the contract, and we realized, oh yes, it was indeed an exploit on the protocol. If the person had actually triggered it, it would have exploited the protocol. They were testing it before like executing the start button or like doing the start transaction. And within that time, someone caught it, alerted me, I alerted the protocol, and we paused the protocol, so funds were safe. And this basically showed me the importance of monitoring in practical sense. Like if you have the right monitoring setup, you can even stop hacks. Like you may not be able to stop everything, but even if you can stop one, that's big enough. So yeah, monitoring is super important. And two, I realized in this space, the best monitoring stack is not with the security researchers, it's with traders. This guy who alerted me was basically a trader who had a trading strategy where they were monitoring the whole blockchain for potential exploits. And wherever they saw a protocol being exploited or about to be exploited, they will short the protocol's token. So they had direct monetary interest in that, and that's why they set up all of this advanced monitoring. And they caught this contract. Like this contract was unverified, and everything. The way their monitoring caught it is like this was had trace calls to the contract, to the protocol that was being exploited. So you could see like it's making a call to that address. And two, it was being deployed by an address funded by Tornado. So it's a heuristic that if an address has been funded by Tornado, and first thing it does is it deploy a contract interacting with a different DeFi protocol, something might be up. So this alerted them, and they short the token. Obviously, like since we fixed the issue, the short wasn't profitable, but it's just a nice idea overall. Like you build monitoring for this and then short things, it's profitable and gives you incentive to build monitoring. So yeah, this trading group probably has the most advanced monitoring right now that I'm aware of. And yeah, it just shows like monitoring is important. If you have the right incentives, you can build good monitoring.
Excellent. And now, one more. Now that we were talking about war rooms, right? You are, like me, also a member of SEAL, right?
Yep.
Why did you join SEAL, and what do you think about some of its initiatives? Like, for example, the Safe Harbor Agreement for White Hats, the war games, all these, SEAL 911. Which ones do you think are most interesting, or you have been most involved with?
Yeah, for sure. So Seal is definitely a super nice initiative, and it was like me, Sam, bunch of like other people, you as well in the space, were already contributing, like in our free time to these projects, like lending out our security advice and so on, just not under a common brand name. We were just doing it on our own. So the whole idea of us getting together and doing it as a group is super nice, and it also makes other projects needing help easier to reach out. Like they just reach out one entity and then they can be diverted and so on. So it's more efficient and everything. The way I ended up joining was like I was there at an event, and Sam told me, "Hey, now you're part of C." Okay, sure, that's fine. So it was not really an opt-in, but it was like just a fun thing I learned about, and yeah, I was super excited to join. So. Seal is definitely that great that way. It has bunch of initiatives. I think 5 or 6 active right now. Seal 911 is probably my favorite one, because it is most impactful, I believe. Seal 911, for those who don't know, is basically like a Seal bot where on one side users can come in and report hacks and exploits and any security thing, and on the other side there is a group of, I think right now there are 50 or so volunteer security researchers who basically help close these issues or help out anyone who is in problem. Like if you got hacked, your protocol got hacked, you are being fetched anything, you can reach out to seal 911 and people will try to help you as much as possible. So this is the best. And even just right now, just 2 hours ago, there was one protocol being exploited live. I can't name it right now because it's still sort of ongoing. And they reached out to me. I connected them to Seal 911, and that was a fruitful intervention. Now I think they have secured most of their TVL, but they're still working on it. So that exercise is just, that team is just super nice. There are other initiatives as well which are super helpful. For example, the White Harbor Agreement and so on. Those things I think are nice, should happen. But for me, is like it's they're not as impactful as Seal 911, to be like honest.
Very nice. And now to close, there was a very nice talk you presented at DeFi Security Summit. I think it was last year, about how to hack a DeFi protocol, right? So I would like you to give like a brief summary of the most important things when you start like checking on a protocol on its code. What are the most important things, and in what order you do them?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember the title of the talk. I don't remember what I talked about it in it, but it's still, I guess things haven't changed. So for me, like it's twofold. One is securing the smart contracts, and the other is securing rest of things. So on rest of things, we have talked about already, like secure all of your keys, secure your DNS domain, secure your hosting, secure your emails. Don't let phishing emails go out. Secure your Telegram, secure your Discord, secure your Twitter, have 2FA everywhere. It's just Web 2 stuff. Like there's a big list, but all of it is super easy to do. So this whole list on one side, and on the second side is your actual software. If it's a DeFi protocol, then you mainly have smart contracts. If it's a chain, you have a client as well and everything, and it gets more complex. But just talking about a DeFi protocol for now. Then on contracts, first, security starts at the developer level. Whoever is developing the contracts should have sort of a security mindset and be aware of the common risks and good practices and so on, and should develop code based on that. Two, there should be proper testing. There should be 100% test coverage, even branch coverage. Like what I'm seeing these days a lot is people will have 100% coverage in best case scenarios. Like if everything is working, but they don't check negatives. Like they will create a contract and say, okay, this is only owner should be able to call a function. And then the test case would be like owner calling a function and that happening. They don't have a reverse test case that someone else is calling the function and it's failing. So it should also fail when someone else is calling. So you should have proper branch coverage in negative cases as well. Once you have that, then audits, obviously, you can have external audits, you can have independent auditors look at it as well, and so on. Plus, bug bounties are super important once you go live, because no matter what, auditors will miss things, and bug bounties are super important that way. Once you go live, you should definitely have monitoring set up for everything, because if you can prevent something, you should prevent it, and so on. But those are like the basic things you need to do to keep your DeFi application secure. Based on what you're building, there would 100% be more things you need to do, but this is just the basic steps.
Excellent. Well, my two last questions. The first one is simple security tips, like those very simple things that someone working in a blockchain project should start paying attention to regarding security. What would be the two most simple things that you think have the highest impact in security?
Yeah, the number one tip I would say is enable 2FA everywhere. On your Twitter, on your Telegram, everywhere. Enable 2FA. and avoid mobile number 2FA as much as possible. Always use either a hardware wallet like YubiKey or app-based like Authy or Google Authenticator. So just 2FA everything. That's the number one tip I can give anyone, and it doesn't apply to just blockchain security. It applies everywhere. The number two would be to use hardware wallets. Right now, I'm seeing so many people using browser-based wallets, like handling millions of dollars in MetaMask. MetaMask is nice and everything, but it's just a browser-based wallet can just inherently be not as secure as something like a Ledger, Trezor, Grid Plus, any of these hardware wallets. So yeah, the second tip would be get a hardware wallet. And do not enter your mnemonic phrase on a computer or a mobile ever. Do not take a photo of it. Do not digitize it ever. Just write it on a piece of paper or something and keep it secure.
Excellent. Well, and the last one, what are your favorite conferences, and which ones are you going this year? What's your plan?
Yeah, for sure. So for me, like the biggest conference is Devcon. That's the most fun. It's the biggest Ethereum conference. So I'm definitely gonna be go there. Thailand in November, if I remember correctly. The second biggest is EthCC. So it's happening in Belgium this year. I will try to make it there if my calendar allows, and it's always super fun. Apart from that, I usually just visit couple of like EthGlobal hackathons here and there, because EthGlobal hackathons are where you can meet like young budding developers and exchange ideas and so on. They are more like developer focused versus business focused. And which EthGlobal conference just depends on I guess where I am or what I like. I usually go to ETH India just because that's like my home base, and one more usually.
Excellent, excellent. So I'll see you at EthCC maybe, and in Devcon in Bangkok.
Yeah.
Okay, Mudit, this has been an excellent interview. I learned a lot. We talked about lots of things. So I want to thank you very much for your time. And is there something else you'd like to say or to leave to our listeners?
I think this was a super nice conversation for everyone to learn. Thanks for all the questions. And final thing, like always, don't trust, verify.
Don't trust anyone, verify. Okay, Mudit, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for listening. This has been the episode number 7 of Blockchain Security Series with Mudit Gupta, Chief Information Security Officer at Polygon. So thank you everyone, and I'll see you in the future. Thank you, Mudit.
Blockchain Security Series, the podcast where the future of Web3 security unfolds. Presented by pablito.eth.